Yeah, welcome to Scott Talks. We are talking with Heather. Is it Chauvin? I'm terrible with
That is
pronunciations, but did I get it right?
Chauvin. Chauvin.
Chauvin. Yes, you are a leadership coach and a courageous mother. You are an advocate for people, and I really just enjoyed your story. The title of your show is pretty interesting because it's called "The Only One Who Wouldn't Be Alive If She Wasn't White," and I think that that's an interesting topic. And this is not something that I was aware of, but your experience in being diagnosed with cancer and receiving treatment. Now, you are in Canada, so you do receive another level of medical care that we do here in the states. But your awareness of your privilege, if you will, was quite refreshing and interesting. You know, I've heard Laura talk about it and her family talk about this. You know, access to medical care, and even then, the levels of which people are listened to and treated. And when you were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, you decided in a moment. Was it in a moment, or was it over the course of a few hours? Was it a week that you were going to advocate for yourself because you felt like nobody else was gonna?
Hmm. I think once I knew things were moving rather slowly, um, and things were getting worse, there was actually a moment where again, it was my husband, saying to me, and my stepmom came over, and I just remember feeling so lethargic, and I was sweating, and it was like winter outside and the windows are open. I'm like, I am so hot. And she just looked at me and she's like, if you don't get back to the
Mm.
hospital, you are going to die. You are not going to make it. And it was in that moment when I could see the panic on her face, how bad I
Mm-hmm.
actually was, that we started making those phone calls, and advocating to start treatment ASAP. But if I would have waited until, when I was supposed to go in and when I was supposed to talk to the doctors, I think it would have been too late.
Mm. Um, it reminds my mother had been diagnosed with peritoneal cancer, and she had suffered from bloating for a long time and didn't really. She just thought it was like you, like situational. Something had it occurred, and then when she got diagnosed, it was very similar. Like immediate action had to be taken. 3 hour surgery lasted 7 hours. Um, and I always just find that to be an interesting thing because we often just throw off, oh, I'm just uncomfortable. I ate something weird, or my body's not getting back to normal. But yet you are experiencing something that is life changing in the moment. And, yeah, I don't know why I was just struck by that in that story because I think it probably happens more often than we think.
Yeah, and what I
And
realized
so,
through
in
yeah, and what I realized through my experience as well was also, in that moment I was so disconnected from my body. And it's been 10 years since
mm-hmm,
then. And so since that moment, I have more trust in myself and in my body, but it happens so much more than we think it does. And also, I was telling myself the story that I don't have time. I don't have time to figure this out. It's going to take too long. And if I keep telling myself I don't have time, I can avoid the inevitable. I can avoid the fear. I can avoid what if, what if, what if. Um, so when people are like, oh, I waited too long, or they waited too long, or this happened, it's like, we cannot blame ourselves, but what we can do is take other people's stories and learn from them and try to kind of push through that fear or momentary discomfort to get to where we, get the results and advocate for ourselves, even if it makes other people uncomfortable.
I love that. I think listening to that deep inner voice is harder and harder, especially as you get more and more on your plate. And I don't know what it's like to have a baby. I've been a part of a family and had a couple of kids in my family, but I have never had to have a baby and take on these roles. And just the journey you talk about, thinking that self care was taking care of all of that, and then having this experience where actually taking your own self care back into your own hands and your own outcome is something that you're now currently still you're trying to advocate for people and help them understand without having to go through these real powerful bottoms. Is that accurate? Do I sound like I'm on course with that?
Yes, you do. People say to me all the time, "Well, I don't have a story like you, or I don't have a rock bottom." And I think, why are we waiting for a rock bottom to give ourselves permission? We can check that box. I
Mm,
tell the story all the time that when I was diagnosed, I checked that box. I was like, I will not get here again. This suffrage of how bad does it need to get? My worth is tied to how crappy I feel. um, I just tell people all the time, it's
mm.
okay. You're gonna be uncomfortable, but when you begin to put yourself on the calendar moments at a time, I mean, it doesn't have to be a day, it can literally be 10 minutes. You learn to advocate for yourself. And when you learn to advocate for yourself, you're bringing life back into you. And when you're bringing life back into you, you can give more to everyone else that you love. Um, it's not selfish. And it may be hard to start the journey, but all you have to do is make it bigger than you. And that's a big thing for me. I think a lot of
Mm.
women come from a place of wanting to make an impact and connection and relationship. So if you can't do it for you, give it to the person that, or do it for the person that you love the most beyond yourself.
I love that idea. Like you self care is something that you can do for yourself and to show the love that you have for the people closest to you, right?
Hmm. Yep. And
Yeah.
I think that is the cultural conversation that we're shifting, is it's not selfish. Um, and you may feel that. You may feel the guilt, the shame, the fear, the overwhelm, whatever is going to come up for you when you are about to take that action. That is normal too. Whatever's in us needs to come up and out if we want to fill that space with something else.
I love it. I think Laura and I have been on that journey a lot about, we have this kind of idea that, like, my life has a circle of things that encompass me, and her life has a circle of things that encompass her. And then we have a circle that we share together. And whenever we're, in a place where those things are becoming entangled, we try to retreat to our individual circles to take care of ourselves as individuals so we can come back to the circle we share and enjoy the relationship. I always remind my friends who are having problems in their relationship that, the person that your partner fell in love with is that person that's in that single circle, and somehow you're losing track of that. And inevitably, Laura and I tend to find our way back to our circle together, shared as more whole individuals. And it's quite a journey. I mean, I think it is a restructuring of our sort of context of what our roles should be in society. And I think it's a great conversation.
It it's interesting because we think we are, like, as humans, we're born and bred for connection, right? We want to belong, and yet we are
Mm-hmm.
individuals. And I think it's such a gift to figure out who you are, what your needs are, um, because as individuals, when you are strong and you come together, that's where the magic happens. So it's not perfect, and it takes time, but yeah, the stronger you become as an individual, the more powerful you are as a unit.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing I
Yes.
want to talk about that I think is really powerful is the example that you set for your kids. Is that something that your kids see, a mutual support in your own relationship? You talked about a little bit about your husband sort of being a partner of yours in your business and your work, and how he's had to sort of step into that role. Is that an example of the transition in the work that you have to do to realign these values?
It's been interesting because I've been with my husband for 16 years now, and oh boy,
Mm.
letting that guard down, that wall down to let him in to co create as a partner has been one of the most challenging things. And I know and hope that my children are watching and observing, but I know that if I desire something in my children, I need to first become that, whether it is in my marriage or our marriage or my work or my health or anything. And
Mm-hmm.
if things do decide to separate or they don't work, I want them to watch and observe how to do that in a healthy way as well, because everything is temporary and life is relationships. So I do hope they see what a healthy relationship can look like, regardless of how it's formed.
I so agree.
Wow.
I don't think that I
Yeah.
was given that opportunity in my own life. Uh, I witnessed. I think we witness. I think we learn about what we see and not what we're told so much. So I think that that's a really powerful. And again, another affirmation of self care, to take care of ourselves and stay out of the results,
Yes.
but to advocate that way. What were you going to say, hon?
I was just going to say that is amazing. You know, the idea that because there's so much the way that that I was taught was that relationships are forever, and for you to say things are temporary, and
Mm-hmm.
have this very like, but enjoy everything. Everything is a gift. Live your life to the fullest, but it may be temporary. And if we don't end up together, hopefully I can show my children how to do that in the most healthy way. Like, that's revolutionary to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I think that my ex-husband and I did that with our boys, and it felt revolutionary while we were doing it, but that was our intention, was to show them that we were still a family. It just looked different
Yeah.
than how it started.
I don't believe everyone needs to live under the
Our
same
pauses.
roof in order to feel like they belong. Um, but yes, that's what we're taught. And I think a lot of people stay in relationship because of that belief that if we separate, we're
Yeah.
breaking the family. But I truly believe that family is about how we treat each other. It has nothing to do with if you're all living under the same roof.
Mm.
I love that.
Yep. Thank you so much for coming on. I want you guys to go back to the episode. Laura and Heather had a beautiful conversation about all of this and more. And check out Heather's website at heatherchauvin. Is it .com, I'm assuming?
Yes, heatherchauvin.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Heather, and have a wonderful time in the woods up there in Canada.
Yeah, making that person uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's
Enjoy making
gonna
that
be a
person
good
uncomfortable
walk.
today.
It's
And
gonna be
thank
a
you
good
for
walk.
coming.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming on the show, Heather.
Thank you.